It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country, where we're on a mission, by the way. And our mission really is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission really to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this particular episode, we have the one and only Anna Sothen, who's in the building. Yeah, she'll be talking about mindset matters. So let's welcome Anna. What's going on, Anna? How are you?
Hi, Jay. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm super excited to chat with you tonight.
Well, I'm glad to have you here as well. And folks are looking below. They'll read your bio. They'll see how famous you are. But they're looking at saying mindset matters. Now, at a time where there's so much going on with mental health and so much happening in the world, I'm curious why you picked the topic mindset matters, when if someone needs to shift their mindset, I would think they could pick up their phone, and there's a TikTok reel, by the way, they could probably watch. There's probably some Instagram jam that's going on. So my question to you particularly is, what's the biggest problem that's facing people back, holding people back today from really having the mindset they need to do the things they know they should be doing?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And mindset is super important. You're right. There are tons. I mean, you can go out to TikTok or YouTube or Reels, and people are talking about mindset. They're talking about mental health. That's a huge conversation nowadays. But it really starts at home. And so it all starts on how you show up day in and day out. And that is an internal job, right? So that is something that we could work on first thing in the morning, in the middle of the afternoon, late afternoon, right before you go to bed. And that yes, you can go to TikTok and you can watch all the things, but if you don't implement them, it's irrelevant, right? And so I tell people all the time, yes, knowledge is power, but really it's applied knowledge that's powerful. Like, you can learn all day long, but if you don't do anything with it, then nothing's going to change.
Well, you probably heard the question before. Thanks for sharing that. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. Well, consistency is the key. And having said that, what do most people struggle with most? Well, I believe it's consistency.
Consistency.
So my question is, for the person that's out there that's watching right now and saying, Shay, I'm one of those folks that consistency is kind of my tough thing. I have the right mindset. I want to go do it, but for some reason, I'm just not consistent. What would you say to that person that's watching right now?
Learning good habits will help you be consistent, right? So finding those, this is a really huge buzzword right now too, is triggers. Finding those triggers that you see or recognize that create the non-consistency in your life, and then reverse engineering them, figuring out why that happens. Why is it that when this particular thing occurs in your life, or this particular situation happens, why is it that you stop being consistent with the things that make you feel good? And then once you figure that out, okay, let's talk about why that's happening. So what is it a limiting belief? Is it a past experience that you are applying to a new experience that is happening right now? And then asking, is that true? So that's a really powerful question. Yes, but is it true? Is what you're thinking right now absolutely true? And if it's not, then what is true? And then just redirecting those thoughts. And I like to say it's a journey, not a destination, right? We think that, oh, once I figure out, okay, my mindset is really good, pop up with something and it takes you off course, right? You're running late, or your kid is arguing with you in the morning, or you and your husband get into an argument, and then all of a sudden your mindset is like, oh, there's happening. It's my day is not going well, and oh, now I have to go and talk to this client, and all of these things. So why is it that you get pulled into that? Why is it that you can't stay consistent with the mindset of things are going to go really, really well this morning, and figuring out what that trigger is and then reverse engineering it?
You know, you mentioned the word trigger about 4 times. And there's folks that are listening saying, Shay, what in the LL Cool J is she talking about? Triggers? I mean, I like the word trigger. I mean, you mentioned habits. And then you said, hey, be careful of these triggers that may take place. So for those folks like myself that went to public schools and they're probably curious, what is a trigger? And could you give me an example of a trigger so we can just all be on the same page? And I love the analogy. I think I know what you're talking about, but I want your view of the world. We want to know what your view of the world world. Like, what is a trigger, and maybe an example of a trigger. So if those folks that are watching or listening, we're all on the same page.
Absolutely. That's a really good question, because triggers are very different for each individual. They're individualized, if you will. So for example, for me, due to past experiences, when anybody questions my integrity, that's a trigger for me. And so if somebody comes back and says, yeah, but did you really mean to do that? Did you really mean to show up that way? Did you really mean to say that? And I'm like, no, I didn't. The way that you took it was not the way that I intended it. That for me is a trigger, because that questions my integrity. And that comes from situations that I had when I was younger where I didn't have a voice. And so something would happen. Somebody would assume my intentions or what my words meant. And I wasn't strong enough to say, no, that's not what I intended, right? This is where I'm coming from. This is what my intention was. And being able to have that conversation. So I was looked at differently. I was looked down upon, if you will. So that's a trigger for me. Integrity is a huge sticking point for me. Like, I don't ever want anybody to question my integrity. And so when somebody does, that's a trigger for me. When I say trigger, I have a visceral reaction. My body tenses up, my heart rate starts to go up, and I get really upset, right? So I know that. I then step back and say, is what this person's saying true? And if I say, no, it's not, then that's an opportunity for me to then clarify with that individual and clear the air, if you will. Or if it is true, right? So what I said came across the wrong way, then that again is another opportunity for me to say, no, hold up. What I intended was this. And here's what I wanted to do, or here's what I wanted to say, and make sure that there's that mutual understanding. So that's what I mean by trigger.
Very well said, by the way. They're curious, who is this person talking? What's her backstory, Shay? What was the defining moment that she knew that helped people really focus on their mindset was going to be one of her jams or one of her callings? So what's the question? Well, who is Anna, Shay? Let her share her backstory so we know who's speaking to us over here, because I know everyone's not reading the bio. There's somebody right now that's listening to it in their ears. There's someone that might be at the gym. Someone's cooking and like, Shay, who is she? Good. That's a good, fair question. So take a moment to tell us a little about your backstory. And what was a defining moment that you know what? Mindset, that's going to be one of my jams.
I began my journey in being somebody different back in 2016. So my daughter was about 4 years old. I became a yoga instructor and then a Reiki practitioner and a health coach. And so those kind of industries tend to lend to a little bit more of a woo-woo, right? Philosophy or approach to life, if you will. That's what my husband calls me. He always says, can you share some of your woo-woo stuff? But that led me to reading Think and Grow Rich and Ask and It Is Given, The One, The Go-Giver. So I started getting into personal development and really so words are very important, really learning and rediscovering who I am and my connection to God and spirit. And so as I did that, as I discovered these things, I sort of became obsessed with wanting to learn more and how to really reconnect to my true essence. So that's a little bit about my story. And, I did that and then did a complete 180 and became a publisher, which is again, a complete 180, but I was able to take all of that learning and all of that training that I did and apply it to my current business. And it's changed the trajectory of my life because I am always a student of myself. I will always be a student of me, because when I connect to my higher self, when I live in my purpose, when I serve from my purpose, then I show up better in the world. And so mindset is super important to me, because I was that person who said, I'm going to hit every single red light. This person's going to be mean to me. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. All of the negative things that we say, I'm worthless, I'm unworthy, I'm not pretty, I'm too fat, I'm too young, I'm too old. All of these things, I was that person. And this is going to be another word that can be a trigger. So if it does trigger you, my apologies. That's not what I intended. I played the victim very, very well in my life. in all aspects. It didn't matter if it was an argument with my daughter, it was because she wasn't understanding what I was saying. And if she was a better person, then she would understand me better. Same thing with my husband. They didn't want to be my friend because they didn't really truly know who I was, right? And so all of these things, my playing the victim was exhausting. And it made me feel yucky every single day from morning until night. And I made a choice to stop playing the victim, to finally stand in my power and stand in my purpose and really show up truly as how Spirit intended for me to show up. So that's, yeah.
I love it.
My story. I'm
How do you
sticking to
stand
it.
your comfort zone? I mean, there's folks that are listening. They're like, I love it, Shay. She talked about health. She made a jump from one industry to another. She recognizes it. And for some of us, and I'll be the first one to raise my hand, doing things sometimes that aren't as natural, although I might have the right mindset, it's outside my comfort zone, right? And there's sometimes a fear, and that happens even sometimes. Speaking now, it can be it can be kind of tough. So I guess my question to you, for those folks like myself, they're like, how does she expand her comfort zone? How does she do things that are kind of unfearful? How does she get her mindset that might be right to really shift to get the actions to take place? Because that's been real. At least for me, it has been.
Absolutely. Well, they say that you don't grow inside your comfort zone, right? And so I have been the type of individual who sort of jumps from the cliff without asking the questions. And as I'm going down, I say, hey, by the way, what is it that we're supposed to be doing? So I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. But if you can just step outside of your comfort zone just a little bit and do that, and then step outside a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. Maybe jumping off the cliff isn't the best way. But I'll give you an analogy. I'll liken this to something that's a little bit more tangible for most people. When you go to the gym, so Shay, I don't know if you go to the gym a lot, but if you go to the gym and I say, hey, okay, all right. So the first time that you ever stopped into the gym, did you pick up a 100-pound weight and start doing bicep curls?
No, not at all.
No. Right? So you would have strained a muscle, which then you would have had to rehab and would have been out of the game for quite a while, right? So the same philosophy applies. You go into the gym, you pick up the 5-pound weights.
Dumbbells. I'm working on it.
I have faith in you.
I'm getting better than I started.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so it's the same thing, right? So you go in there, you pick in the 5-pound weights, you get really, really good at that. And then once that becomes comfortable, where your body no longer exerts as much energy to do the same thing, then you pick up the 10-pound weights, and then you pick up the 15, and then the 20, and then the 25. The same thing with stepping outside of your comfort zone. So again, don't jump off the cliff like I do. I don't recommend that for everybody, but pick up that heavier weight. Do something that just makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Do it enough times to where you're like, oh, okay, this is old hat. I've got this down pretty well. Let me do something new and something a little bit more challenging. And for every individual, that is going to be different. One of mine is public speaking. I love doing podcast. I love being in front of a microphone. I love being on the radio. I just did my first keynote speech. That for me was outside of my comfort zone, right? And I did that in preparation for being on the Comeback Champion Nation, because that's going to be in front of thousands of people, right? So this was in front of 40 people. So it's getting that practice in of doing a little bit until it becomes old hat and you get better and more proficient. I read a post the other day that said your first offer is going to be crap. The first time you speak in front of somebody, it's going to be crap. The first time you do a presentation, you are going to fail. Every time you do something for the first time, it is not going to be good. However, what I can guarantee for you is that if you don't do it, you will never get good.
Wow. So well said. Thanks a lot for sharing that, by the way. And, we have a segment here called Today is My January 1st. And as you're listening, folks are saying, wow, Shay, she has it all together. You know, she's married, got the kids, got the business, expands her comfort zone. Mindset is not her thing. She likes to woo-woo. She even goes to the gym. Say, come on. Yes, we got a person. She's a gym enthusiast, ladies and gentlemen. So we have a segment, and we'll find out what her struggle may be, called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks that are listening, that are watching, you already know what's about to happen. You can go ahead and say those magic words. Today is my January 1st. Doesn't that feel good? Happy New Year to you. And for those others, you're new.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Hit the subscribe button, make sure you follow us, and share this with someone else. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra here. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means that past, no matter how dark, no matter how dreary, no matter whatever happened in that past no longer equals our future. So my question to Anna on the other side is, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And number two, was a time maybe you had a setback, if any, and you had to bounce back from that setback?
I love that is your mantra, because I tell people all the time, if you thought you knew me yesterday, let me reintroduce myself. Because I am not my yesterday. I have the choice every single moment of every single day to change how I show up in this world. And so we do, right? So being a health coach, a lot of people, or people who are on their health journey, they'll say, oh, I'll do that Monday, or I'll do that next week, or I'll do that next month, or I'm going to wait now that we're towards, the end of, or getting towards the end of Q4. People will say, I'll start a new, exercise routine or a new health journey on January 1st. So I love the fact that you encourage people that today is your January 1st. Right now is your January 1st. So if you don't like how things were going, change it now. You don't have to wait weeks, months, days, years. You don't have to wait. You can do it right now. For me, almost every moment can be a January 1st, right? So being a publisher for a magazine, when you have a sponsor who comes at you and says, this isn't working for me, I'm not getting anything out of it, like I want to get out of my contract, all of a sudden that feeds into my insecurities of, am I doing a good job, right? And so that can be a moment for me where I'm like, oh my gosh, and I've had those moments. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I find another job? Should I quit altogether? Should I just stop doing everything that I'm doing? And I need that January 1st reset of, no, there's a reason why I'm doing this. I didn't wake up this morning and say, I'm going to be a brain surgeon, right? That wasn't placed on my heart. No, being a publisher for a magazine, that was something that I was called to do. And I'm really, really good at that. And so I need to remember that. So I come to my January 1st with, today is a fresh start. I can make a huge impact today, right now, with a new sponsor. I can help that old sponsor and help them get over and work out whatever kinks that we need to work out as a business owner, right? Because we all have those. But today is my January 1st. I can make an impact today. I don't have to wait until tomorrow. I don't even have to wait until this evening, right? I can do it right now. And that's super powerful. Like, so you're sharing that as your mantra. Like, I really want you guys to take that in and really embrace it and hug it and hold on to it, because your past does not define your future. Absolutely not at all. And tell people, if you thought you knew me yesterday, let me reintroduce myself and let me tell you what I'm doing and where I'm going. And do you want to come with me?
Wow. What do you do for fun when you're not out saving the world, making a difference for everybody?
I love to spend time with my family. I have two kids, a 17-year-old and an 11-year-old.
Spoken like a true mom, gives us the age and everything. That's a true mom.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Except it's no longer in months now, right? My son's 16 months old. My daughter will actually be 18 tomorrow. I've got they're amazing kids. I've been married to my husband for 22 years. My favorite thing to do is I go to yoga almost every single morning. It is my time for me, where I take care of my body and my mind and my soul. And I also love to read, and I thrive on being with friends and people who fill my cup. And so I am a very, very lucky. Nope, I'm not lucky. I'm very intentional about the people who are in my space. And I have really good people in my life who pour into me, I pour into them, who celebrate me when I have success, who cheer when I have successes, just like I cheer for them, and they cheer as if it were their own success. So I highly encourage that you get people like that who can lift you up when you're having those days where you're being challenged and having faith in what you're doing. So that's what I like to do in my free time.
You know, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given, right? And I like to frame the conversation because that success is a team sport. You probably had so many mentors along this journey of life. Some of you met, maybe some of you just read online, or maybe some of you follow. Like I follow a lot of folks, I've never met them, but through the power of these fiber optic lines, I feel like they're my personal mentor, by the way. And so my question to you, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given that you want to share with the audience? And you listening, wherever you are, you can lean forward now. This is a good time to lean forward because you can take this one lesson. You only need one idea to change your life, by the way. Just one good idea, implement it. It's really better than 1,000 ideas you know right now. So you can take that one idea, you can implement it for the rest of your life. So the question back over to you is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure. So for those of you who are listening to this, I'm fanning myself because that's a lot. So my biggest piece of advice that I have taken into and really implemented is stay in your zone of genius. Figure out what that zone of genius is, but realize that you do not have to do everything. You do not have to be the best at everything. Really good, successful people surround themselves with people who know how to do other things. So you don't have to be the HR person. You don't have to be the bookkeeper, the CPA, the social media person. You don't have to be the content coordinator. You don't have to be the ad designer. You don't have to be the designer of the magazine. Like, find people who are really good at those things and surround yourself with that and stay in your zone of genius. Because what will happen when you do that is that you will show up bigger, better, and bolder, because that is what feeds you. That is what drives you. That's where you get excited. And when you show up like that and your light shines, people will be so attracted to like moths to a flame. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Marianne Williamson quote. You'll have to go out there, but it's basically talking about letting your light shine. And don't dim your light for anybody else. If you stay in that zone of genius where your light shines the brightest, the world will be a better place for it.
Thanks for sharing. Last two questions. Number one, what type of clients are you working with these days? If you're taking on any clients at your firm. And number two, how can folks stay in the conversation? Like over and beyond right now, they want to connect with you. How can they best do that?
So I work with small to medium-sized businesses who want to grow their brand recognition in the communities that they serve. We have 1,200 different publications all over the US and Canada, so I can work with you wherever you are. I'm not location bound. And if you want to connect with me, which I would love to connect with you, whether it be, to talk business or to talk about mindset, or just to be that lending ear to listen, so that I can provide you some guidance without judgment, I'm happy to do that. But if you just go to my website, www.annasothen.com, and that's ANNASOTHEN.com, there's a form that you can fill out where we can connect. And I would love to be a part of your journey and help remind you of your light and how to show up better in this world.
Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. Can't wait to connect with you again.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
And thank you. Thank you to viewers. Thank you for being here. Without you, there is no show. So I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to encourage you to hit the subscribe button. Take this one message. If you got one idea from it, just one nugget, share it. Just hit the share button right now. There's no credit card. There's no Zelle. There's no Cash App needed. No swiping to succeed. You can just share this with the universe and make someone else's life a lot better. We like to share every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's my favorite time to share this, that you are amazing. You're so freaking awesome. You're like this super duper incredible individual that's just one of a kind. And you're here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to make the impact on the world. And you've got so much greatness inside you. And I believe in you. With that being said, make it a great day, everyone, because your best is still yet to come. Your best is still yet to come. I believe for you. Isn't that great to know your better days are ahead of you? We'll talk to you later. Shay Brown, I'm out. Thanks a lot, Anna. We'll talk to you later, everybody.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.